I'm a member of a Red Sox nation. It's a kind of a family. Wherever I roam, a Fenway home, that's where I long to be. I'm a member of a Red Sox nation. It's a kind of insanity. Yeah, I live and die with Red Sox pride for eternity. I fake a smile November until opening day. Suffering baseball withdrawal around the clock. When April comes, hey, meet me down on Yankee Way. That's when Red Sox Nation starts to rock. I'm a member of the Red Sox Nation.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to episode 68 of the Avid Boston Podcast, presented by AVIDBOSTON.com. A little bit of a later start than usual. Tonight, a lot to go over. Probably one of the busier shows we have ever done so far. For those of you staying up late on Periscope, you can find the episode uploaded to SoundCloud within 30 minutes of the conclusion of this broadcast. It'll be available on iTunes by your AM commute. You can also find us on iHeartRadio, Spreaker, YouTube, and Player FM. And as always, there is a link at the top of this Periscope window, which will bring you to the podcast section of AvidBoston.com. Quick turnaround. Feels like we were just here. 2 games set. You don't get too many of those in a season. Red Sox played the first place, or I don't know, maybe they might be the second place Philadelphia Phillies right now, but a team that's playing very good baseball. David Price took the mound yesterday, pitched 8 strong innings, struck out 5, got his ERA under 4 to a 3.97. Not a lot of offense in the game. It was definitely a pitcher's duel between him and Phillies ace Aaron Nola, who might be a finalist for Cy Young. It was a 1-1 game for almost basically all the way to the 13th inning, one of the longer games. Nunez drove in Jackie Bradley to get the first run on the board, and then in the 13th inning, mercifully, Blake Swihart drives in Nunez, who stole a base to get into scoring position, which was key because that was a ground rule double that brought him home. Had he not stolen the base, only would have made it to third. Second walk-off victory within the last week. Blake Swihart is the hero. Tonight, not quite as good. Drew Pomeranz pitched 5 innings, gave up 2 earned runs, walked 4, which is a bit of a concern. Maikel Franco and Scott Kingery were basically the 2 culprits that made his life a little difficult and put 2 of the runs up on him. Bullpen gave up the 3rd run. Ian Kinsler, new acquisition, was 1 for 4 in the game. Alex Cora, interestingly, in the post-game press conference, said that Pomeranz didn't look great, and he was pitching because we were a little short, and I don't know what he meant by that, but maybe Pomeranz is not his favorite starter in the rotation. So here to basically get through the rest of the show with us on this trade deadline Tuesday, my co-host, as always, Dave Kwiatkowski. Dave, how are you?
I'm doing good, Terry. How are you?
Not too bad. A lot to go over. Also with us is Austin Hartsfield. You can find him on Twitter at Cap Hartsfield, and he is also one half of the Double Coverage podcast, which can be found on iTunes. Austin, how are you?
What's up, boys?
Not too bad. You were initially on the bench. We were going to have Chris Saunders, but late scratch, so in the lineup tonight. So thanks for coming on last minute.
No problem.
Okay.
Just a classic utility guy.
Super utility guy. Come on.
That's true. I disrespect you with that. The Brock Holt, this podcast.
I catch too, so there we go.
Just a little bit of everything.
That's one position I could never do. So, anyway, for the listening audience, we are trying something new, and we're going to open the show to kind of tie in with a recap, a new segment called Shoutouts and Callouts. And what that will be is all three of us will shout out a different player on the team. Maybe it could be Alex Cora. Maybe it could be Dave Dombrowski. Maybe it might be a freaking umpire on certain episodes. Who knows? But we're going to shout someone out from this series, and then as we get through those, we are going to call somebody out for something awful that they might have done or what they might not have done, depending. So it's a pretty loaded segment, and Dave, why don't you kick it off with your call out for this Philadelphia Phillies series?
So my shout out is definitely going to be Blake Swihart for sure. We're doing call outs, right?
I'm sorry, did I say the wrong one? We're doing shout outs.
Oh, perfect, shout outs. Yeah, we're doing shout outs.
I already botched it.
and you know what? It's okay. That's what you expect on this podcast. We roll with it. But Blake Swihart is definitely my shout out. You know, he had another good series. He had the walk-off hit in extras yesterday. He batted second in the lineup today. He had a hit in another pitcher's duel with Arrieta. He also kind of smoked the ball that was sadly caught. In the month of July, he's batting .433. And in the last month or two, he's played outfield, first base, third base, catcher, basically everything but pitcher at this point he can do. And he's bringing a versatile bat and speed to the lineup and pushing a struggled Sandy Leon for his starting catching position. If he can continue to do well behind the plate, which his pop times and his arm accuracy is just as good, if not better, than Sandy Leon, he's going to have a long future here and went from being a trade bargaining chip to a centerpiece to add to this loaded Red Sox score.
It's amazing the impact he can have on a team when John Farrell is not the manager.
It's almost like if they had a manager that knew how to manage his personnel, he would have been great.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, and I've always felt that, you know, Farrell was kind of in fear for his job in early 2016 and just pulled the plug on him too fast. And then, unfortunately, the ankle injury took place when he was playing left field and really sidelined him. But it's nice to see because everybody has always been pulling for this guy, and I think everybody wants it to be a success story in Boston as well. So.
Oh, for sure. I mean, he's a fan favorite, I think, at this point. He's like a Brock Holt to this team. People like him. They want to see him do well. Every time he does something positive, everyone's like, oh, this is it. This is the start of his breakout. And every time a trade comes up, people are reluctant to put his name in there, unless it's for a superstar, which obviously you got to give something to get something. But I really like what Blake's been doing this year. And it's tough to come off the bench and do it every 20 games. And now he's getting consistent time, and it's paying off.
Absolutely, and it's almost like he could be a five-tool guy if he just had some pop. You know, he's got speed and a lot of the other things, but still, you know, a very serviceable player who could do a lot of damage. And he's hell on the bases, which is fun to watch.
Yeah, it's really great. And on top of that, he's a catcher, and that's something that's hard to find in this league, that you have a fast on the bases, fast behind the plate, can block balls, can throw runners out, can hit for solid numbers average-wise, and also has some pop here and there with some doubles, which he has. So it's going to be interesting to see how he develops, and I think he's going to get the chance to as well. If he made it through this trade deadline, I think he's going to be here for a while.
Yeah, and did you also mention he gunned down the base stealer?
I did not mention that. I mentioned his arm, but I did not mention that. He had a hell of a throw.
Yeah.
Very Sandy Leon-esque, I guess.
Yeah,
would say.
I just remembered that. I was too traumatized by the lack of offense, but I did kind of remember that. Austin, who would you like to do your shout out for?
Well, Terry's not gonna like this. Dave picked the guy who ended the first game. I'm gonna pick the guy that started it. I mean, David Price pitched phenomenal against a Phillies team that he really had no business pitching well against. I mean, he goes 8 strong. When was the last time that we saw him go 8 strong innings? I mean, especially in a big game against a division leader at the time. David Price went out there. handled his business, struck out 5 guys, gave up a run early, collected himself, collected his composure, and went back out there and didn't give up a run for another 6 innings. So what more can we ask of David Price in this series in particular? I don't think that there's anything that we could ask for them.
Yeah, I obviously not a fan, but he pitched well. He pitched well, and I didn't know. I mean, they don't have the scary factor that the New York Yankees have, even though they're playing very well. So, but I thought there might be enough scary factor that maybe he does get lit up, and that didn't happen. And just to screw with some of my Twitter followers at the end of the game, I said the Red Sox win, and Aaron Nola had a good performance. Just kind of like an on-purpose snub, and just to rile people up, and it kind of did. So it did its job. But if he can have a quality start, let's say, and I might even call like a 4-run game on Sunday a quality start against the Yankees, I'll probably change my tone a little bit. I really will. But something tells me that, probably...
God, I've heard this before.
It won't be the case, and it's like a vicious cycle. That's what happens. He has an awful outing, and then he pitches brilliantly and kind of builds you back up and makes you a believer, and then that 8th or 9th start after the previous one, or however many, it just doesn't go well. But still, 8 strong innings. He's got his ERA under 4, which after that July 2nd start against Severino, it really ballooned, and so that could come down. And he struck out 5 in that game. So yeah, and the interesting thing too is he's not Aaron Nola anymore. Like, Aaron Nola is probably going to be a Cy Young at some point, and maybe this year, I don't know. And David Price isn't the 2012 Cy Young winner. I mean, he got through last night because he's a cagey veteran, and he just, has kind of adapted a little. He's 32, 33 years old, and so he's kind of transitioning into that 30-something-year-old pitcher, and as much as I don't like him, it was kind of fun to watch him, kind of turn it into a pitcher's duel against a younger, more powerful pitcher. So yeah,
he looked great. I mean, if you take his, I said this today, and I texted the guys on the podcast, and even our healthy scratch Chris Saunders tonight, was if you take David Price's stats out of the Yankee series that he's had, his personal series against them, he's got a 3.2 ERA this year, 3.20. So if it's not named the Yankees, he's been more than serviceable, and it's a big reason why the Red Sox are where they are. He's a big part of it, just like Erod and Porcello, and right before he got hurt. But just like Terry said, he builds you up. After that Yankee blowout, he had like 6 or 7 quality starts with a complete game, like 80 pitches in there against Baltimore. And we all thought, all right, he's back. Then he pitched against the Yankees again, got blown up again. And then he pitched against the Royals, And then since that Royals start, he's been really good. So I agree with Terry. If he can get through 6 innings, 7 innings, 4 or less runs, I'll even give him that extra run. Even though the Yankees are hurt, they're still the Yankees. So if he can do that, I'll definitely be more confident with him going through the next month or two with a tougher schedule. But if he gets blown up again, I mean, he just goes right back into the bullpen for me in the playoffs.
I don't know that he'll recover from that one as far as whatever playoff plans they have.
Yeah, I think he should be there regardless, even if he throws a shutout against the Yankees 9 innings. I honestly think for a playoff series where it's very strategic and runs are tough to come by, seeing David Price 2 or 3 times in a series when he's pitching really well is more beneficial than seeing him once.
And that could be. I mean, he pitched, 2 games last year against Detroit, against Houston.
Yeah, and he was brilliant. He was unbelievable in there.
Amazing.
He could have done more probably if Cora was managing him, or a Francona or something like that. He would have did more.
Yeah, well, I want to touch on that a little bit later on when we talk about the series more specifically. So we'll touch on that. Let's get into our call-outs and go ahead and kick that one off.